Okay, this post will be on the 11 stone divination system which I have developed. Now, typically when you do a casting type reading, there are symbols on the stones or bones or runes that you are casting. With this system, there are no symbols on any of these stones. You'll notice these ones all look the same, they're all shaped the same, all weigh about the same. Only one is different, and it's the same color. In fact, it's the very same color, but it's actually a slightly different type of stone, and it has a little bit different weight, and it's shaped different. This is only one stone that is like that. The rest are the same, and they are held within this gourd cup. Now, the gourd cup, I don't know if you have to go quite this far to make the system work, but I actually raised the gourd, telling it that when it grew up it was going to help align me with the flow of probability so that I could do divination. I didn't know exactly what I was putting in the gourd cup at the time. I expected it to have something with my runes, but there you go, here it is. It was actually a much bigger gourd at one time. It could have been a big cornucopia, but this was the size that wound up getting cut, and it turned out that was so that it could fit 11 stones. There we go. So, the board itself. It's a fairly typical board, except for all the little pock marks in it, which aren't completely uniform, but there are several pock marks in it that, of course, always on the board. Now, the reason I say always on the board, of course, the pock marks are always on the board, but the reason I say that is that with this system, it needs to be cast the same way every time. See, because what we're doing, as I said, linking me with the flows of probability. Okay, so there's a randomness or a pattern. There's a pattern to the randomness around every situation and what kind of variables are affecting it. You want these to link into that. Using the gourd to do that because it was raised to help link into the probabilities, but you can also do that through yourself. You do this same thing already when you're reading the tarot cards or runes or anything like that. When you're focusing on the question, you're linking yourself into that own probability. And that's why the randomness factor is so important. Is because you're linking your pattern of how the stones are going to fall to the same pattern that is surrounding the question you're asking about. So, then you get the question, you link to it, and in this case, like I said, it's a yes or a no. These don't have symbols. There's just you read the patterns. So for a basic reading, it's kind of a yes or a no, and what it is that the yeses are like that, lines across. No's are like the other way, lines up and down, preventing you, like they're blocking. Lines across, like they're passing, means that what you're asking about is likely to happen, and if there's blocking lines, it's not likely to happen. And like I said, you want the board to be the same every time so that there's no other outside factors. The only outside factor you want affecting how the stones land on the board is the outside pattern concerning the question you are asking. You don't want little bumps on the board that weren't there before knocking a stone off course, because that isn't affected. That isn't something that's from the original pattern you were trying to read. That's just something on the board interfering. You do not want interference. You only want the pattern. It's a little more important when there's that part is a little more important when there are no symbols, because regular runes, something like that. Part of the randomness is in what you grab and throw out. With these, I'm throwing the same things every time. That random factor's been taken out. It's all about that pattern. Now, after you get to it, and after you begin learning this system, you will find that there's more to it than a yes or no. Like, for example, if it lands kind of like there's a few lines across, but then there's one slanting, the farther across it is, the more into what's happening that the problem is going to occur. If there are lines going past it, that can often mean that there's going to be a problem, but there's a way to get past that problem if you see it in time, stuff like that. It's all about reading the pattern. Yeses or nos is where you're going to start if you try to learn this system. But then you want to keep throwing it and use it as much as you can, because the pattern will start speaking to you. If it says something different to you than what I just said, about lines across mean yes, up and down means no. Forget me. Forget me. Listen to the stones. They will talk. You just have to learn how to communicate. And